95 today.
This is ginger and cherry vodka.
Oh
No,
yeah, you
I'm
told
not.
me about that.
Yeah, I'm not supporting the Russians. I'm just, it was on sale,
Right.
and I'm a
I
cheap
like how you
motherfucker.
that
I'm a cheap motherfucker. But anyway, welcome to the Real Sharks podcast, my audience. It is your host Rob with
Well,
two B's, the Dark Frenchman Steve, and
Yo.
Double D Barnacle Man Dave.
what is going on, folks? I know you're ready for the episode like we are.
We are, because you're gonna get shanked during this fucking episode, possibly, because we're gonna be talking about best prison movies. That's right, all
Get it
the
stamped up real
movies
quick.
about the big house. The big house, not. I was trying to think of other metaphors for prison, my audience, but it's kind of
Big
escaping me right
house.
now. The big house.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did
You talking
Elvis call it?
prison, right?
What are the
Up the road.
euphemisms of
Shit,
prison?
you
The
got
big
up the
house, up
road,
the road.
college.
Yep.
Mm,
If you
yeah, that's
Mhm.
true. College is a prison.
Yeah, the
no,
college.
no, that's what the kids,
College.
that's what moms used to tell little black kids on my street. No, your daddy went to college. What are you
Yeah.
talking about?
Oh shit! Or on vacation.
Yeah. Same.
Went on
Same.
vacation.
Shit, no.
College.
After
Oh, did
after
he?
2 months, we wondering how long is this nigga's vacation? How's the rent getting paid?
That was great. So let's go ahead and kick off this episode with a fun one, and I'm sure everyone knows where we're gonna go. And this one is kind of like a prison movie, but in the air, and that's 1997's Con Air.
All right.
Sorry, my audience. This is, of course, a Nick Cage film directed by Simon West, was written by Scott Rosenberg, who's a very famous writer. It had John Cusack, John Malkovich, some of the really, actually, it's a pretty heavily casted movie. You had Colm Meaney, you had Renault Santiago, Bing Rames, Dave Chappelle was in this movie. This is like one of Dave Chappelle's first movies, too. You had
Yeah.
Steve Buscemi,
Yeah.
who played the Marietta Mangler. I think that's what he's called.
I
Yeah,
legit
Danny
did
Yeah.
not remember
Trejo.
that Dave Chappelle was in this movie. I
Right.
legit
Yeah, he
remember
plays
that.
he plays
I've
Yeah.
Kimball.
seen it recently, and I know I've seen him in
Okay.
it, but I did not like bringing it up. It's not a Dave Chappelle movie that comes to mind. It's
Right.
like, oh shit, but he was in there too.
He was in there, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
he plays
So
Pinball.
yeah.
Pinball, that's what his name is, I think. Yeah, he actually is the one
Pinball.
that
Yep.
starts the whole fire. So for those of you who don't know, it's about um basically Nicolas Cage is a good-hearted Marine, and he's come home on leave to see his baby mama, and
Oh, Con Air?
basically yeah, this is Con Air. This is the beginning of Con Air.
Oh,
And
okay.
basically some
I was
guy's
like,
trying to
but make it on there. I
assault
was
his
like,
wife,
I
and
was
he
like,
has
nah,
to
that
defend
nigga
his
make it to
wife.
convict.
And then basically accidentally kills the guys.
Okay,
Now,
there. That's
would
what
this
it
is
is.
Yeah.
this a true way
Yeah.
someone would go to jail? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, he's hitching a ride home on Con Air, and basically, wrong flight, because this flight is taken over by Cyrus the Virus, who is John Malkovich, and basically it's trying to be rescued by John Cusack, who's basically the lead investigator or lead cop in this whole movie. I don't know. What do you guys feel about 1997's Con Air? It's just fun. It's a good, what I call a guilty pleasure flick that I like to turn on, because, honest to God, it is a terrible movie that is almost in 3 acts, and one of those acts just stalls terribly.
Yeah.
It's like 3 different movies.
Steve, you
Movie.
first.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I agree. This had a star-studded cast. It was crazy. It's one of those films that I don't know. You rented it and then you rent it again, and then you saw it on TV a bunch of times. You know what I mean?
Then
I think
eventually
that's
you
where
fall
people
asleep
saw
to
the
it,
film.
and then when you fall asleep to it, you
And then you wake
eventually
up and
stop, and then you have to keep going and restarting it. Where you left off, and you never
it's a long.
finish it.
It's over 2 hours, so
It
you're
is.
getting a lot. I think
It
it's
is a
because of the
2 hour.
infamous. It's the Nicolas Cage Southern accent that really isn't
Dude,
Southern at
oh
all.
my God, dude, that's when I watch that movie. Every time I watch it, I'm like,
It's the
this is a
greatest.
made-up accent. I'm like, this is okay, sir. This is your
Dude,
father.
he changed it so many times.
He sounds like a
So
Southern
it's
Belle.
like, are you from? Yeah, it's like you're Southern Belle, but then like somehow you're somewhere from the Middle East, kind
You're
of.
like
But then
Southern
it's like
Belle. You're like a
Northern
Southern.
European. Then yeah, it's like he's switching all
He's an
over the
Irish
place, and then
Southern
it's
Belle.
just like I'm just gonna be straight up me.
Yeah, at one point he's just Nick Cage.
It's just Nick Cage. Dude. I'm
He
just
gives
like,
up halfway
alright,
through the
he's
movie,
just
like,
gonna
fuck it, I'm just not even gonna try right now. They're just gonna get me. They paid for
think of
me.
this one
But
day.
before Dave goes, one of my favorite scenes of all time, which is obviously one of the clearest representations of the 90s is when John Cusack, the lead cop, and Nicolas Cage jump on them motorcycles, man, and they are chasing the rest of the fugitives down while they're on a fire truck. I'm like, yep, cops and convicts coming together. That's one of the most brilliant parts of that film that I absolutely love.
Of all time, it's like a completely different movie, dude.
It really is aged well. It has aged well, even though it's terrible in some aspects. It's such a guilty pleasure film that my audience, if you truly like those popcorn flicks that you're just like, oh my god, this is nonstop action. This is the movie for you. Dave, how do you feel about Con Air?
I'm gonna say this. I loved the movie when I saw it. I saw it, I'm gonna say around late 90s, like 99, 2000, going in that area. Only because, again, I was catching up to movies. All the movies I watched, I didn't know the name of because I'm just sitting there in the living room like a kid. But the movie was amazing. Well, it was amazing to me at that age. It takes me back every time I watch it. It takes me back to being at that age. Like, holy shit, who is this white guy? What is he doing?
Yeah.
And honestly, until you said something at this very moment, I did not know that he was not a prisoner on that flight. I thought the whole time Nick Cage was just a too good ass prisoner who was like, "Fuck that! I'm about to get my sentence cut in half." Because I thought he was on some Suicide Squad shit.
No. He's he's like literally going home because and it is a crime that is easily self-defense. So whoever was his attorney in that movie fucking sucked. I mean, because the guy's trying to clearly assault his wife and he killed him in self-defense. He's fresh off, war. It's like these hands are meant to kill, man. What do you think the man's gonna do?
Oh yes.
Yeah, and I think that's why they said it. Like, you're too dangerous to be like held like a real prisoner. Like, you got to be on this white.
You do know that they have to get their hands registered after they learn all those tactical takedowns and shit to kill you.
Yeah.
So if he was in the Marines,
wouldn't it be weirder? Like, if they're like, why would they put him on that? They would be like, "Yes, listen, you're too valuable to like the United States
like
military."
Putting mid-level security prisoners on a supermax flight. It was like,
right, of all levels, dude. There's like a rapist. There's this military guy. There's a guy who's just like conning people. And then you have John Malkovich that's just like, I don't even know what his deal was. He was just like, they said like he did everything, right?
He
like,
did everything.
He did it all. He killed people. Yeah.
Oh god! And when they're introducing the prisoners is hilarious because I love when he's just like, "Is that Billy Badham?" He's like the notorious killer. He's like the same. Like literally, that's the same.
Yeah.
And he goes, he's like, he found his wife in bed with another man. So he went to the next town, 3 towns over, killed her parents, even the dog. It's like, yeah, you gotta mention the dog so you know this guy is a bad dude. He fucking killed the dog.
Bad dude. Yeah.
I'd have been more scared if he said he killed them, then fed them to the dog, and I'd be like, oh damn. That's more.
It took me back to South Park.
I never knew.
Cartman.
Did you guys know Danny Trejo's character? What was it? It was like Johnny something, like Johnny 27, because
Johnny 27 or something like that.
Movie?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
something like that, right?
Yeah.
Johnny, yeah, and it's like he raped like 27 people or something like that. And he looks at him, he's like, "It'll be 28 if you like keep messing with me." I'm just like, it's one of those.
He said, it'd be Johnny 500 if they knew the truth. It's like, Jesus.
Oh, knew the truth. Yeah, that's right.
All right,
like,
so let's go ahead and move on to another prison film. So let's see. The next one I would like to mention here is obviously one that we're gonna mention this one because it actually kind of started this whole genre in my audience, and we were kind of at first I was a little bit hesitant on to add it to a prison film because I was like, is it a prison film? But looking through it, half the movie does take place in prison, and that is American History X, one of the greatest independent films that has ever stood the test of time. You finally saw it, Dave? Finally saw it? Okay. So let me just say, this, my audience, in my opinion, is Edward Norton's greatest film he has ever done. It had a really good. It had another cast. It had Fruza Balk in it as well. Edward Furlong, Ethan Suplee was in it as well. This is actually Ethan Suplee's kind of an unknown role because he's also, everyone knows as a prestigious side actor. He's been in some great films as well. But American History X is basically the story of Derek Vineyard, who's Edward Norton, who basically goes to prison after killing 2 black kids, and basically while he's in prison, he has a realization of things. But while that's happening too, his younger brother is basically following in his footsteps, and he tries to get out of prison and teach his brother the lessons that he learned in prison, which is not what his Nazi brethren really like. And it's really a really touching
Yeah.
story of, redemption, but also too a sad story of how hate is ultimately hate destroys on both ends of the spectrum, because you had the ending, and I won't tell you, my audience, for those of you who haven't seen it, but hate does
No
work
spoilers.
both ways. No spoilers on this one. And I feel like this is a very important film in history because it is a subject right now in our country, America, that people are kind of turning away from talking about racism and talking about slavery and issues such as this. And it's a film that's kind of being censored a lot. I mean, it really has kind of gone away in the public census as a film that no one wants to really talk about exists. But it's a film that does need to exist, that does need to show the lessons which it teaches. My favorite scene I would like to mention, my audience, in this movie is where Edward Norton is actually looking into the mirror and he has a big, gigantic swastika on his chest, and he tries to cover up that swastika with his hand. But Steve once said this off air is, you can go ahead and hide that, but it's on you forever. And that's why it doesn't matter if you change overnight. People still don't accept that change. Like I said, hate works both ways, and that's what I feel about American
Yeah.
History X. 1998's American History X, I should say, too. Directed by Tony Kaye, screenplay by David McKenna. What do you guys feel about
Yeah,
American
Dave, what
History?
did you think about this? You recently saw this film. How did you think about this?
Honestly, the film was jaw-dropping. I wasn't expecting that when I saw it. I didn't expect to get hit and have the heartstrings pulled the way it was.
Right.
It really resonated on a different level, especially being from the South. It was like, wow, this is this shit is still real. Even to
Right.
this day, like in 2022, this shit is still
Yeah.
real. Like it's still going on. This shit is still happening. Like, how do we I don't know. It was definitely something that not only I sat and had deep thought about, I was also trying to figure out, is this something I expose the children to this early? Because
Right.
I have an 11-year-old and I have a 14-year-old. So at those two times, and then my brothers and sisters who are still young who haven't seen the movie. I have brothers and sisters from 25 down to 10 years old who have never seen this. And I'm like, when is it time to show them?
Right.
Because everyone needs to
Right.
know.
And what's
Yeah.
really powerful, and
Definitely, man.
this movie pulls on you too, because I want to see if you two recall what this scene that was so powerful to me that I was like, oh shit, that is some hate. Is when he is talking to the Jewish teacher, and like everyone leaves the table, and he pulls off his shirt, and he's like, you see this? He's like, it means not welcome, and it's like,
Again,
Not
yeah,
welcome, yeah, because he's
yeah.
like, "What are you doing?" Right?
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah,
"What
that
are you
was
doing?
really
This is your
powerful.
family." He's like, He's like, "Right, my family." And he's like, "You try to come in my family and dirty and sully my table with your Jew." Yeah, it's like, damn, that's some hate, man.
It's like,
That's some hate.
yeah, and what's crazy about this of how he goes to prison, right? Because like it was just subtle. It was just his dad said something subtly racist,
Right,
and then he went off and went full blown racist, right? And then his dad dies. He goes crazy, right, and kills those 2 black guys. Goes to prison, and then obviously the dynamic of him learning, you know what I mean, what he does,
and
and he
this is a
goes
movie
from
that shows
there. But that
everything in
just the
prison too.
dynamics,
It
yeah. But
shows
just the
rape,
dynamics, how,
gangs.
yeah, yeah. See, like that's what I'm saying, and it's like no matter what you are, and who is he raped by in the movie too? By the way, you know what I mean. It wasn't
Yeah,
by a black guy. You know what I
right.
mean? So it doesn't matter. It's just great about how like the
he had a
subtleties of
Brangelina.
racism.
He had like a
Wow.
Brangelina upbringing, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
And shout out to Brad
Yeah.
and Angelina. I love both of them. Mr. and Mrs. Smith saved my marriage in more than one way because we ain't gotta do domestic violence, so we can get violent.
I love it. So here's a film that this
Gotta like
isn't
it.
really a prison film. It's going to be an honorable mention. I want to throw it on there very early, my audience. I know
Oh,
Steve
wait,
loves it. Oh,
Rob,
go ahead.
not to interrupt, but we are going to do the honorable mentions for the culture, and I also have something for the kids
Oh, for sure.
with this series. Well, not kids, but I'm gonna say our teens to preteens to adults,
Okay.
everywhere from 17 and a half to 25. I have TV series,
Okay.
and movies that would be within that bracket.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say this now for all my unmelanated people on the podcast who are listening.
Okay.
Just because we are doing it for the culture does not mean you are left out. We are still giving you the opportunity to sit there and listen to everything. Watch these movies, understand what the situation is. And if
Correct.
you understand and you can fucking relate, put it into it. Leave it in the comments. There you
Hmm.
go. Leave it in the comments. Get interactive
Yep.
with us. Let us know what's going on.
Please. Please. We
Tell
love to
us your
hear your
stories.
opinions.
Let me talk
Please.
about your stories on From Corner to Corner.
Nice. So here's one I really want to mention, and I know Steve's gonna be like, God, Rob, why do you bring up this goddamn movie so much? And that is, of course, Alien 3.
Loved it. Fucking loved it. It was
You like
hilarious.
Alien
The
3?
ultimate.
Bro, it was hilarious.
Okay.
It was hilarious.
Okay.
Rob.
Did you see that?
After
Yeah,
you
Steve,
name
you got me all worked up. Steve was like, "Oh my God, someone else liked that movie besides Rob." Did you
I
see
was
my
just
after
about
face?
to say,
after you
there's
told me to
another
go
one.
watch all the aliens, then watch the Predators, then watch Alien versus Predator again. I did all of that with the wife. Not gonna lie, had two good spliffs, a nice little drink, and I was like, "Yo, this shit is hilarious." The graphics, the graphics for the time frame
They're
on
all
Alien
right.
3 specifically, graphics for the time frame,
They're
it
all
was
right.
okay, but I always feel like when the movies come out, we're always 4 years ahead of when the movie dropped compared
Right.
to what the graphics are specifically. You guys have to remember that they work on these movies 4 years ahead of time
Yeah.
before they can drop. In animated movies, they work on them for 4 to 10 years before they come out.
Oh yeah. This film in particular, actually, I'm going to go into a
That
little
was
bit of a moment, a little bit of a in depth about it. Even though Alien 3, for those of you who don't know,
Yeah.
it is the third installment of the Alien franchise, where Sigourney Weaver crash lands on a basically a prison planet. And she's the only survivor. And throughout this, well, technically, she's not the only survivor. There's, of course, spoilers, an alien egg that follows her onto the planet. Right. What's
Right.
interesting about Alien 3, and I just want to get it out there and over with because we don't really get to mention this too much with the Alien series, is that there is actually a director's cut and a theatrical cut of this film, and one of them is actually better. One of them involves a dog, the other involves a cow. I think the dog one is a more powerful display of brutality, but more importantly,
Yeah.
I've said this before. I think Alien 3 gets a bad rap because you follow Alien, one of the greatest horror sci-fi movies of all time. Then you follow with Aliens, which is the greatest sci-fi action film, one of them of all time. And then you had Alien fucking 3, and it's like, how do you follow up from those three? But I'm not gonna try and make that argument. What I will say though is it had some great scenes in it, and I know Steve knows what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
it
When the
did.
priest does the
Oh yeah.
whole like, why do we give these bodies? That part is very powerful, man.
Agreed.
When he's
That's
giving the
pretty cool, dude.
eulogy,
It's sick going back and seeing
it's a
it.
great scene, and it kind of adds to the whole. What this film was supposed to be, the end of Alien, and it does really kind of, in my opinion, I thought it did a good
It does
job.
feel like that.
Yeah, it does. I
Yeah.
thought it did a good job summing up the end of Alien. But we had Resurrection, and then we had some other AVP films, so we didn't get to end it with that. But still, I thought if it
Well,
ended there, I would have been okay with it. But that's all I'm going to say about Alien 3. Is it a prison film? Yeah, about if aliens.
It is,
It
right? I
takes
mean, she's
place.
on the prison.
We're gonna say this now because just because it doesn't specifically stay inside of a prison does not mean we're not going to consider it a prison film. It
Right.
just has to have a significant amount of time spent within behind bars.
Correct, Dave. Correct. And that is why too. some of these films, it was really, really hard to decide on if it was technically a prison film or not, such as 1996 Primal Fear, which is about an altar boy accused
Oh,
of murdering a priest, and the truth, comes up several years later. Directed by Gregory Holbut, written by William Dilly.
that's
It's based
on
off
the
his
TV
novel,
series,
right?
a
Starred Richard
BBC TV
Gere,
series.
Lauren Linney, and Edward Norton. This is one of the
Yeah.
most scariest roles Edward Norton ever played. He's like insanely
It,
scary.
it, it, it is scary. Yeah.
Like it's probably, I think, the most terrifying role he's ever done outside of American History X, where he's just buff and brutal and looks like he would curb stomp you.
Agreed.
But let's, Dave, I want to, before you jump into your honorable mentions here, I want to actually do some
Oh, we
honorable
got time.
mentions. Some honorable mentions myself here. We got, I want to mention Ernest Goes to Jail,
Of course.
1990, of course. I want to also mention Let's Go to Prison, and I always recommend this film because it is actually pretty funny. Let's Go to
Ernest
Prison
Goes
is
to Prison or Let's Go to Prison
Let's Go to Prison.
with Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart.
No. That is another good one. There's actually one before that.
But this is why I speak. This is why I said it to specifically
Dave.
let.
This is 2006's Let's Go to Prison, starring Will Arnett,
with
Dax Shepard.
Will Arnett. Yeah.
Yeah, this
Dax
one is
Shepard.
funny.
I think. Yeah, it was good. It was okay.
And
it was
let
okay.
and the Kevin Hart one and the Kevin Hart with Will Ferrell dropped within, I'm gonna say, what, 10 years after that, like within 2020 or 2019,
Let's see here.
between 2017 and 2020.
Yeah, it was close. It was in the middle. Yeah, like 2016 or something like
Somewhere
that.
around that area.
Get Hard.
2017.
Get Hard is the movie you're thinking of.
Get Hard.
Hard.
That's the exact movie that they took that movie and made it a comedy.
Right, yeah.
They took that movie, put both of them in it, and made it nothing but a comedy. Literally. I love both movies.
Yeah.
I just wanted the young kids to understand that those two movies coexist because, well, one movie is created off of the next. They just changed they took a line in the movie and made a whole new.
Yeah. Movies do get recycled. I mean, it can literally be, as we've talked about in my audience, the same plot, just dressed in a different outfit, such as the movie Upgrade is strangely like the movie Venom, is it not? Huh, coincidence?
Oh my goodness.
We could just say this about a lot of Disney films. We're not going to go into Disney.
No, we're not. We're not going to get into that and destroy everybody's
plagiarism
today.
I wanted to mention this one. Another great film that I think was hard to put into this category, but after time of thinking about it, I have to. And that is 1971's Clockwork Orange, starring Malcolm McDowell, Patrick McGee, Andrina Corey, Warren Clark, Anthony Burgess, and Michael Bates. As everyone knows, directed by the famous Stanley Kubrick, released in February 2nd, 1972. The reason I am adding this to this film is because, it is about Alex. It's based, for those of you who don't know, Clockwork Orange is based off a really famous novel. But more importantly, it's about Alex, who Michael McDowell, or Malcolm McDowell, who basically they're the thugs of England. They go out at night, steal cars, gang fights, rape women, do all kinds of brutality. So much so, but more importantly, Alex is he's like the head honcho of this thing, but he's a leader that's really into himself. So much so that he brutalizes his own gang. So what do you think is going to happen to this man when he goes and does another heist? His gang turns on him. He ends up doing his time, and he ends up becoming an experiment to which he is subjected to gratuitous violence for hours on end, so much so that they hold his eyes open with little claws, and then they put eye drops in his eyes to make him watch these films. And at first it doesn't bother him, but then they start playing Beethoven because he's a man of music. And he says, please don't put Ludwig van to all this violence. Beethoven never did anything to any of this. And he's like, oh, Alex, is this starting to make you uncomfortable? He's like, no, just putting Beethoven to all this is what's doing it. And he gets sick. So much so they do a demonstration to where he is basically subjected to forceful violence and he cannot answer back because he gets ill.
Yeah.
He is
He gets
released
beaten.
into the real
Yeah.
world. And it is actually a good kind of basis of prison reform, of how we handle our prison. It really is, because it's
Kind of, yeah.
Well,
Break
no,
that down.
huh?
Break that down.
It really is, because it's like this. Do we, set people inside prison for corrections, or do we try to curb the behavior through medical means? Because basically, when
Mhm.
he comes out of
Did you
jail,
say through medical means?
through medical means, yes,
Okay.
through
Through
So
medical
it's
medical
means,
means,
like
yeah.
and
it's like okay, they're fucking up, but are they crazy?
no,
Or
this
they're
is
fucking up, are we gonna make them crazy because
it's
they're
more
fucking up?
like they're fucking up, so let's make them sick if they ever try to commit anything on their own, any
Yeah.
violence,
Well,
even if it's
like
defending
literally
themselves.
changing your psyche.
So is that
Yeah.
so okay, I'm gonna take this to all the prison people who have really been in prison. This is just a quick uh breakdown just so y'all can understand it. Yeah, excuse me. So this is like how they put how they put the deterrent for your penis to get hard in the juice in
Right.
prison. Okay,
Right. Right.
just so everybody
That's
can
a very,
understand it.
very good analogy, Dave, because
Okay.
he
Yeah.
basically gets out of jail. His parents run over him, who he used to bulldoze. He sees his old gang, and it's one of the they're like,
Basically,
well,
he's impotent compared to what
and
he
he
was.
can't
Yeah.
do anything. He gets sick, and it
Yeah.
Goes into alpha,
basically
comes out of beta, and dies.
right. But an alpha who becomes a beta, then goes all the way back to the scene of a crime that he committed, and basically the guy who's
Yeah.
looking for vengeance tries to kill him. Then we're back to square F and one, where he's the victim, my audience. And the reason Clockwork Orange, I think, is such a popular movie and a beloved film, is because it's a really big film about, do people really change?
Mhm.
Right.
Personally, that's
On
what
their own, or by, like you say, by medical means,
or force,
where you're
yes.
like just mentally changing somebody's attributes and by psychiatric means to, like you said,
Right.
Rob, to where like they're so reformed that they don't even defend themselves when they need to.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so the next two here, of course, are going to be shoe-ins here. Um,
Mhm.
I love and both of them actually by the same author too. And this is probably going to be very surprising for a lot of you, my audience, because you're going to go, "What?" And I get this every time I mention this. And I'm just going to start off like this: Stephen King's The Green Mile, 1999.
Yeah.
Yep, many
Definitely.
people don't know that is a Stephen King
Definitely.
book.
Yeah.
Starred Michael Clark Duncan, rest in peace. Tom
Rest
Hanks,
in peace.
David Morse, the man himself, Sam Rockwell, Barry Pepper,
Oh
Doug
man.
Hitchison, Michael Jeter.
Just to give Michael his shine, he also played a cop in See Spot Run.
Right. Yeah, that is true.
Not only,
Yeah.
And he
not
Yeah.
is
only
also
was he
Mr. Noodle. He is Mr. Noodle from Sesame Street
He's
Gang.
Mr. Noodle.
So,
Yeah.
not only
so
was
for
he an
those of you who
officer,
don't know,
Yup.
not
so
only was
for
he
those of you who don't know,
Dude, R.I.P. to Noodle.
The Green Mile is about Tom Hanks, who is basically a guard for death row, and he comes across Michael Clark Duncan, known as John Coffey, who has basically been sentenced to death for committing a murder. But throughout the whole stay in prison, it turns out that Michael Clark Duncan, aka John Coffey, is basically a miracle healer. He can heal people. He's a miracle. And it becomes this huge debacle on whether Tom Hanks has to do his job
kill
or
him, right?
kill a God's miracle. Yeah. Um, one of the most touching films probably I've ever seen in my life. I know a lot of people who cry over this
The
film.
only great Tom Hanks film.
Yeah.
The only what? You're insane.
The
Oh, the only.
only great.
Wow.
Those are
goated. Great goated. Like in history, it's gonna be one of his best films.
Oh well, yeah, that's true. I thought you were like saying that's his only good film. I'm like, you're talking
No,
about the guy who's
because I
won
love the
back-to-back
Chronicle.
Academy Awards, man.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just 'cause they say it's
That's
great.
pretty
doesn't
good
mean-
take though. I
just-
like that.
Just because they say it's great doesn't mean it's great.
This is true, but still, 4
That's
Golden
the
Globes,
that's like the
back-to-back
IMDb.
Academy Awards.
Yeah.
Man, Tom Hanks, dude. Tom
Academy
Hanks be
Awards is like
fucking.
IMDb though. Like,
Run that
it
rap
can
sheet,
fluctuate
Rob.
depending on
Bro,
who-
he was winning these awards before IMDb was a fucking thing. So that's what I'm saying,
That's
Tom.
my point. That's my point. Is look how it's been rigged. No, I'm just playing because Tom Hanks does deserve some of what he was nominated for.
Yeah,
Some.
Yes.
Some.
He deserves his thing.
Dude, Tom Hanks.
Dude,
I'm
the
so,
length of this film though, like Rob, this
3 hours.
on the length. I don't know. I think this might be going
Not a dull
down as
moment.
the longest prison movie of all team.
Not a
Is it
dull
not?
moment. It is, out of all the films, it is probably the longest. It is a good 3 hours, which, when I watch it though, Steve, I have to say I don't notice that because it
That's
doesn't
it's
it doesn't
one, you're one
stall.
of the only ones.
It's a good movie. Like you can
Yeah.
just sit and enjoy it. Like it's an enjoyable movie throughout the from beginning to end.
Yes.
Especially if you I'm gonna say this for all my people who haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it, take the time out to go see it.
Right. Next one, and probably this is the cream of the crop, but I hate to say this to my audience, and this is probably going to be a
The
controversial take
controversial
on it.
pick.
This is in my opinion, as the great movie guru Rob, the vessel in which you take all your movie knowledge, my audience, from the Shawshank Redemption, which I believe is the oh my God, remember the Titans of prison movies. Just like and I'm
Yes.
not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's the Remember the Titans of prison movies, and that's Stephen King's Shawshank Redemption, starring the man
Not
himself, Morgan Freeman, who would go on to play Nelson Mandela in another film, who is also in prison.
Yeah, he came out pretty hate-free, though, ready to heal. Went on to become the president of South Africa after that. After they freed him, of course, sure.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize this, but you can put your weed in there.
Let's just say Morgan Freeman is one of the greatest black actors out as of, and people underestimate Morgan Freeman for Denzel Washington, which I hate because Denzel Washington was watching Morgan Freeman on TV when he
And they were both watching Sidney Poitier before that. God damn
point.
it.
Right before that. Which, by the way, shout out to Sidney Poitier, who did his prison movie of his own called The Defiant One
Yes.
with Jamie Lee Curtis's father.
Nice,
Okay.
Steve. Very nice drop. But
Good.
this Shawshank Redemption, and I actually got one more movie too before we go on Shawshank Redemption because Clancy Brown is also in that film too. But starred Morgan Freeman, Tim Roberts, Bob Gunton, a story of Andy Dufresne. Tim Robbins is sentenced 2 years life prison for killing his basically wife with the banker, and he says he didn't commit it, but basically through friendships and alliances, I guess you could say, through prison, he kind of works his way out, so to speak. I mean, becomes real useful to everybody to the point of where they won't even let him leave, and he can even see the corruption that's in the prison itself. Um, but again, guys, this is a film in which when I watch it, even the first time I watched it, I still was like, duh. What'd you guys think he was gonna do? He was only I think he was personally just lying to you. I was like, I think one, he did do it too. Two, I think he played the perfect play. He's like, I'm just gonna be really useful, keep my head down, pretend like I don't know nothing, and then when they piss me off, I'm gonna be like, howdy. I mean, he even was making a fake account in which he siphoned all this money off of which he got out. Now, don't get me wrong, smart, deadly smart. But still, it was like, what did you expect from this guy? I don't know. I guess I seen
Yeah.
the movie late in life, so Shawshank Redemption didn't have that much of a powerful impact on me. But
Late life for the young users.
but what do you guys think about Shawshank Redemption?
Stevie
Man,
first.
I kind of feel the same way, Rob. I watched when I was younger too, and I still don't feel that. Like, look, it's a great film. I will say that. Is it the best? Because we are now, and the top two are King films, Green Mile, and now this. I still prefer the Green Mile as the best
Right.
Stephen King movie of all time, even over this one. And I think it's just because of the impact. I understand they give you the whole like turning of age and like prison and all that other stuff. I don't know, dude. It's very stupid. I just hated how like he's whole. Spoiler alert. He's been working on the whole. He gets out, and they never
You gotta
check
give
the
him the
man's
fingers.
cell.
Wait,
You know,
you gotta give him the fingers, Steve. You can't just say
yeah.
you gotta give them the fingers, man. They gotta know the fingers coming.
All
That's how
right.
they know.
Spoilers. It's just, man. I don't know, man. This film, it's just overblown in my.
I think it is personally. That's me.
It's
Very
like the whole
overwhelming.
Morgan Freeman.
Whoa, wait, overwhelming
Yeah,
or
I don't know,
underwhelming?
man. For me, it was underwhelming because of how
Shout out Robin.
tropey and cliche it was. It was very because how
Right.
prison would go. You should have had Morgan Freeman get denied. Been more impactful. Like, dang, he really doesn't get out. You know what I mean? But I understand. The only big like thing about it was Brooks, who gets when he's 90 years old. He can't cope
Right.
with society.
That part was sad. That part
Now
was
that's
very
very
sad.
realistic. Yeah, that's a realistic thing that goes on with people who come out and can't reform to society because they've been in prison for so long that they're just like, why am I even here? Like, no one cares. I have no family. I don't want to work as like a baggage person when I'm like 90. So screw it. You know what I mean? I might as well just stay in prison. That's why I remember he was like trying to kill that guy because he was like, I just want more time so I could just stay here and die in here. Like, you guys are my family. So that was more impactful to me personally than the entire film. But that's not to discredit the actors who made the film great and the premise. It's fine, but it wasn't the greatest scene. I don't know.
What'd you think of Shawshank Redemption, Dave?
I honestly loved the movie. This was a personal watch for me, even as a young child when I first sat down and watched it. I'm gonna say around 11, 10, right before I jumped off the porch when I sat down and watched it and really got into wanting to know what everything around me meant and what everything was going on meant. This is one of the movies that one of my older cousins sat me down and be like, all right, you want to see what jail is like? Sit down and watch this. This is exactly what it's going to be like. The difference is, unless you find a cool white man, y'all not going to kick it. And that's the difference between, but that's the difference between the Southern jails and LA jails.
This is why we have Dave on, everybody.
You know, hey,
true, yeah.
gotta give you the young perspective. If y'all ain't getting the young gunner perspective, y'all ain't getting it. But honestly, the movie was a great watch, and I really feel like if it hasn't been watched by the masses, meaning all of my listeners, if you haven't sat down to really take it in, please, for me, sit down, take it in, send it to my DM, send it to the page, send it to anywhere you can leave a comment on, so I can hear what your perspective of that movie was, because I know how it touched me. I can talk all day about how it touched me. How do you guys feel about it? Let me know how you guys feel about it out there.
Right. Listen, check out the comments below. Best comment may win a shirt. We will see on that one. Ooh.
Ooh,
All
shirt,
right.
maybe some stickers.
We'll see. So I got last two films here, and then we're going to be done with the best prison movie. So these next two,
Best
I
white
feel
prison movies.
these two actually are not. And this was actually with a actor you mentioned, Dave. This is with Denzel Washington, and this is 1999's The Hurricane. This is the story of
The
Reuben Hurricane.
Hurricane.
Yep. Story of
Gotta
Reuben
mention
Hurricane.
Malcolm X too, bro.
Yep, I'm sorry. That is also right too. We also had Malcolm X with Denzel Washington too, another brilliant film about a historical figure. Actually, Malcolm X, I should let everyone know, is a pretty good biography that was done by Spike Lee. So he does deserve. Yes, he does deserve to be mentioned in
Yeah,
this. So
damn good biography.
Yes.
Very accurate.
But you know, not entirely in prison, but it did take place in prison. But anyway,
got his shit right in prison.
Oh yeah, of course.
That's where he learned to be a real fucking man.
Right.
Let's say that.
So
he grew up out of the streets into real manhood. That's what prison does for you little boys.
So the story of Reuben the Hurricane Carter is basically a welterweight boxer who was in prison for literally a crime he did not commit, wrongfully imprisoned through racial means by cops and prosecutors who basically harped on him his whole entire life. There's not really much I can say about The Hurricane besides like it is a really good film. It's two acts. It's basically, you know, Reuben Carter being incarcerated and how tough he is with that, and then also it's the act of him being let out of jail by the Canadians, as he called them, and his redemption after his book. It's a two-part story, but it's one I really enjoy too. A story of justice as well, and one of the only guys that's gotten out of jail and was like, screw it, I'm going to Canada.
Yeah.
So I really
succeeded, right?
I really did like
Rob set off. Like, he's the only guy who actually said it and did it.
Right.
Yeah, all right. We made it past YouTube's monetization. Fuck right, that was a great movie.
All right, and the last one I want to mention, because I feel like this is probably one of the biggest ones here. I know to the crew here, this one is one that we were subjected to kind of like get in tune of what prison really is about, and it shows everything, and that is Blood In, Blood Out, 1993's, starring Damien Chapa, who played Miklo, or Milkweed. You had Benjamin
Mikalo.
Bratt, who played Paco, Jesse Borrego, who played Cruz, Carlos Carrasco, who played Popeye, Enrico Castello. You had Danny Trejo in this film as well, and Ving Rhames, and Victor Rivers. You had a pretty good star-studded cast of this film. This film
it was an amazingly underrated star-studded cast.
Oh yes,
because
absolutely.
Everyone there has been in everything from TV to movies, but no one has the nominations. No one has the vindication or the verification that they need from starring in all these underrated films, all these cult classics, everything that makes us want to watch the next prison movie that comes out.
Right.
None of those actors or anyone you added except maybe for Danny Trejo.
Right.
Maybe.
When he was young too. This is when Danny Trejo wasn't even like
he was
really
super young.
Think about how long it took him for even to get verification. He didn't get verification till Spy Kids, brother.
Right.
So
actually, I would say I'd even go far and say he didn't get verification until he was in. Wasn't he in Desperate Housewives, Steve? Because
but you gotta understand, you're not verified.
Yeah, he was.
But you gotta understand,
dude,
you're not verified till the kids can recognize you.
That is true.
Like, think about what Fluffy said. Gabriel Iglesias. If you can tell a joke and these kids walk up to you and be like, "That's Shrek." Yes, you know you made it.
But Blood In, Blood Out is basically that kind of film, because if you have a kid that comes up and says, "I don't want no one saying they want my chon chon," then you know they saw.
Give me the white boy.
You know they've seen Blood In,
right.
Blood Out. And this film is really kind of a heartfelt film. I mean, the story of Miklo, who's basically, and I've actually seen this firsthand, a white Mexican, basically white-skinned Mexican who is basically not accepted.
That in the hood, it's called a Wexican.
A Wexican.
Yeah.
Because if you're black, we call you a
Wexican.
Blexican. Just like you, if you're black and Asian, we call you a Blasian. Black and Hispanic, we call you a Blexican. If you're white and Hispanic, or if you're mixed with white and Hispanic, you can either be called Kexican, which would be a Caucasian Mexican, because meaning you are from the hills of the Caucasus, or you could be a Wexican, meaning you are white and Mexican, meaning you came from Britain. These are where your people initially come from. That's just a hood term, y'all.
That's a lesson right there. All right. So I just want to say one of the best scenes out of this movie too, besides all the redemption, is the scene between Paco and Cruz when he is painting his brother's dead face inside of his painting, and he basically wants him to take it out, and he cuts the painting out, and he's like, do your effing job, because he sees him with the drugs. Blood In, Blood Out.
Explain specifically who does what for these people who haven't seen it, because you have to understand, Rob, you and I both know there are kids in this world who have not seen this movie who are portraying everything this movie expects and don't know what's going to be for them when they get there. I'm sorry. I'm going to just keep it real for y'all. Y'all don't know what you're in for when you step inside them gates. When that door closed and your mama ain't coming to get you, this is what you in for if you watch this movie. Please watch this movie.
Right.
Anyone from 18 to 25, watch this movie. Anytime where you can catch, from 16, where you could be legally charged as an adult to 25. You need to watch this movie as a male.
Watch this film, because everything is in this film. All right, so that's actually going to be our prison special for this episode of the Real Sharks podcast. I'm your host, Rob, of course, with Dave and the Dark Frenchman, Steve, and we'll shank you later.